Greetings, or what is up, and a very warm welcome to the channel. The sun is hiding, the rain is still perpetually pouring, and the magpie is casting. Coming to you guys this fine Monday the 13th of January with another 1v1 live from the top of the Company of Heroes 2 ladder. Let's see now, we've got spawning in the east, playing as the Overcommand West forces, playing with the Salvage Doctrine, or Scavenge Doctrine, there it is on your screen. It's going to be Kanji Numbers. Who I might just end up calling Axis for this game, seeing as how our opponent is also a largely kanjified character. Spawning in the west as the American forces, playing as the Heavy Cav Company. Or is it just Heavy? No, it is Heavy Cav. It's going to be Symbols Trademark Kanji CC. So, Hero TM. I believe that says Hero, just about. So, I guess we could call them Numbers and Hero. Yeah, we'll go with that. Numbers versus Hero. The map here is going to be Volshanka, I think it's called, which is seemingly quite a small map. If I scroll over to the American base, you can see it's actually not super far over there to the OKW base. Well, I suppose you can't actually see the OKW base, but there we go. If I pan across the map, you can. So, yeah, not the biggest map. Most of the capture points are very close together. I mean, look at these distances that we're talking about here. It's not far between these points at all. And yeah, there we go. And the initial shots already getting underway. So looking forward to seeing a ton of action in this game. There was also a lot of people observing this game, so I don't know if that's significant to anything in particular, but it usually means that the players are well known or good, or this is part of some kind of event or something like that. I'm actually super bad at staying up to date with like current affairs in games that I am playing and actively interested in. So who knows? There might be some kind of tournament going on. I just don't know. Anyway, yeah, Storm Pioneers kind of getting cut down out in the open here. There's riflemen in buildings. Actually, there's a rear ash, but there's just rifles around them in buildings. So they are getting whittled down. Volks Grenadier is going to try and come into the rescue here. These riflemen still going to be piling in damage. So getting some nice amounts of veterancy off of the highly elite, very expensive Storm Pioneer squad here. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing Scavenge Doctrine. This is probably, on the whole, my most used commander in the entire game. Probably, I want to say. Yeah, I wonder, it'd be really interesting if Company of Heroes 2 tracks these stats, like, you know, how many times you use which commander things. I know it tracks how many times you've played on the various maps, which is always interesting. Yeah, I would really like to see which was my most used commander. It might well be this one. Anyway, let's see now. We've got Jaeger infantry already out on the field. So the sort of fairly elite scavenger squad going to be moving out here. G43 upgrade probably will be coming out on that as soon as possible. That always pays dividends, especially against American forces. Or UKF, I suppose. Basically, it always pays dividends. And a fairly even opening exchange here. Neither player getting a particularly profitable or disastrous opening in this game, although it is worth noting that a scoreline disparity, a fairly early scoreline disparity, is opening up here. The Axis player finds themselves up by nearly 50 tickets right now, so Hero just needs to be mindful of that. You never want to fall behind too far, especially in Americans or US versus OKW. That's a matchup which has a lot of potential for, because they're both very strong factions throughout all stages of the game, so it often goes late. We often see games decided not by a landslide sort of victory on the battlefield, but by pressure in the late game being weighed by the scoreline. So yeah, you never want to fall too far behind, especially when you picked Heavy Cav, which, as far as American commanders go, is one of the later game sort of oriented commanders. I mean, yeah, a lot of these abilities are useful earlier on, like the smoke barrage, the mines, and so on, but really it is only in the sort of mid-game and later on that we see things like the Pershing and Rangers really flourish. So Ball of Volks here, Storm Pioneers in support. So it looks like the American forces with a weak concave here. But it's not going to be enough. Incendiary grenade going to come down. These riflemen not falling back. Okay, there comes the fallback. A little delayed, taking a little bit of extra damage there. I don't believe they'll be in danger of a squad wipe. There's just not quite enough Axis guns here. Storm Pioneers are going to dive forwards, though, looking to get some focus fire in there. Negative cover comes into effect. That rifleman is now on a one-hit. I believe there may have been like 1 or 2 KAR rounds there, which could have hit for a squad wipe. But you normally need more than 2 rolls at a squad wipe on a falling back infantryman. You normally need more than 2 KAR shots, and so yeah, not super unlikely that American squad did survive that. Up to 2 squads of Jaeger light infantry. Okay, alright, I like what I'm seeing. Interesting. We don't often see that used so early, not 2 squads so early. Maybe this is an adaptation to playing against USF. Storm Pioneers have to fall back, unlikely to be squad wiped. Also, Lieutenant Tech, gonna be the choice here for Hero. And the Tommy gun equipped officer already coming out onto the field and piping some damage into these Jaegerlights. That's going to force a fallback, and that is much needed. If we crack the tack, you can see the majority of the fighting over this last phase of play has been taking place on the doorstep of the American base, which is never what you want as Hero, or as the Allied player. There are still Axis units getting work done and pushing forwards into the American half of the map, so this has been a slightly unwieldy start, to be honest. The scoreline differential opening up to over 120 tickets at before the 6-minute mark. Well, about, okay, 118 at the 6-minute mark. That is a flag for concern there. If this game goes late, it's gonna probably favor OKW, and this game will probably go late. So numbers here getting off to a really nice start here, maintaining a vice-like grip over many of the most important parts of the map. Crucially, these Volksgrenadiers here are holding this fuel here, so every second that they buy here is denying fuel. They probably need to fall back now, though. Oof, cutting it a bit close there. This is a lot of American rifles. Looks like he ought to be able to get away. Negative cover is here, but okay, he's gonna get away with that. Wow, really holding to the last possible second on that fuel point. But yeah, handsomely rewarded. Anytime you can deny fuel from your American opponent is that's always going to be profitable for you. So nicely done there, and yeah, highly flustered. I think it's safe to say Heroes opening to this game. This is a lot of pressure coming in from this OKW player with an interesting composition, going like relatively heavy into Jaeger lights, which to be honest haven't really been contributing very much to combat. But I suppose what they have been doing is enabling Volksgrenadiers and so forth to just do the combat, whilst these Jaegers have been sneaking around capping stuff. So that's pretty cool. Stuart's going to be the follow-up, as we're used to seeing when Lieutenant is the opening choice here, so nothing sort of crazy about that. And I believe that Stuart, there's no Kettenwerfer on the roster, or no Kettenwerfer even coming. In fact, the manpower is a little way away. So this Stuart is going to have a window of time where it is just going to be uninterruptedly going to be able to massacre Axis forces. And that should, I say should, enable Hero to stabilize a little bit. And by stabilize, I mean just access the midline of the map and capture some points and get out from under this horrendous, I mean, presently double cap, but I mean, it has on and off been a double and triple cap that's just eating into his ticket count now. You know, this scoreline is opening up in a super worrying way. We're not even 10 minutes into this game, and the American player is at under 350 victory points remaining here. Storm Pioneers trading a little too long. Stuart's going to come in. Possibility of a squad wipe? I mean, I'm being optimistic. Nah, those Storm Pioneers are very safe. This, whoa! Wow, this Stuart here just not repositioning. Not repositioning in the face of 3 squads of Volks. That's a little dangerous. Gets this engine donked by a Panzerfaust there for its troubles. And that is never the start to life that you want from your Stuart. Still going to be able to chonk in for a lot of damage here. These Volksgrenadiers looking a bit fragile. Ooh, still declining to fall back. Okay, there comes the fallback. Little late there. This is quite the concave of American units. And the Stuart here. Yep, he'll be punished with a squad wipe there. I think numbers there were a couple of times when he just was falling back his Volks just like seconds too late. But that makes the difference. This is Company of Heroes 2. Fallback timings are everything for the survivability of your core infantry units. And yeah, numbers here, just pushing the envelope a little too far, a couple too many times, does get punished with a Volk squad wipe. And for all the handsome opening he's had in this game, you know, 9 minutes into the game, 190 tickets knocked off his opponent's score, having had a nice control of the map and keeping the fighting on his opponent's half of the map, having good control over the fuel point as well at various points in this early game. First blood really going to the American forces here. Their roster has been intact, battered, but intact. And you know, without those Volksgrenadiers, this roster for the OKW player does look a little bit depleted. Now, he has elected not to go for a Kettenwerfer. That's because he's been teching rapidly. This is a sub 10 minute Schwerpanzer HQ here coming up, which is rapid, on the back of Battle Gripper HQ tech. So, there's going to be... I predict that there's going to be a phase of vulnerability here while the Axis player gets this tech established and will therefore have a relatively depleted map presence and still no answer for the Stuart. So this is a calculated trade-off here from Numbers. Numbers is saying, okay, you get to stabilize, you get to access the middle of the map, I will relieve the pressure which I have been applying to you, and you can have your Stuart romping around the field relatively unopposed. And for these things I'm giving you, I will take a very rapid Schwerpanzer HQ. Whoa, Panzerorth even finished, so this is rapid. Okay, so it is on the Axis player now to secure enough fuel to make a choice from this building in a timely manner. If the fuel income is heavily disrupted in the next minute or two, then this gambit from the Axis player will be negated. Teching means nothing unless you are able to access the tech and produce a unit from it. Unless, unless the American player is foolish enough to wander all of their troops into this flat gun and you manage to benefit from the tech literally by benefiting from the gun on the building. But it's safe to say that seems unlikely. So yeah, there is a window here where the American player can leverage the Stuart, and I would say their heavily superior army now. We're looking at an army that outnumbers the Axis force and is way better equipped. Weapon racks are finished. We've got BARs and Zooks popping up over all these squads. So I hope that Hero recognizes that they are in the ascendancy and this is their window to push, but it is on Hero to recognize this. And one of the core skills across all RTS games is recognizing what your role is in the game. What is your position in the game? Having an accurate identification of what your role is in the game is like at the core of pretty much a lot of games, but certainly in RTS, and that's why scouting is so important. You know, if you don't have the information, how can you possibly recognize what you're supposed to be doing in the game? And so it's on Hero right now to use the information that they have to identify that now is a time when they need to be being aggressive. And to that end, we do see a triple cap established. American units are pushing in south, north, and mid. So, I mean, I would say that Hero is doing what they need to. Okay, Schwerpanzer HQ finally gets seen. Okay, so this is important information. So Schwerpanzer HQ is seen, the flat gun is firing, so Hero recognizes that Panzerorth is done. So I think probably Hero recognizes that they probably need to start... Realistically, it's too late to be super aggressive and deny fuel. I think Hero needs to make preparations to be dealing with a fairly rapid Panzer IV here. I mean, this is rapid for OKW anyway. Rakettenwerfer is on the field now, so there is finally a hard AT solution. That Stuart will no longer be able to do what it pleases wherever it likes. And there is the possibility of cobbling together a kill on that light tank now, should we see a Panzerfaust connect. Rakettenwerfer going to get set up here. Finds the Stuart. Hero on point with the micro, immediately withdraws the light tank for repairs. Wow, we've got a fighting position machine gun in place, as the announcer has just announced. Interesting stuff. We don't often see fighting positions used. But immediately you're going to find some Volksgrenadiers under its arc. Rakettenwerfer are going to move in to start sieging this position down, but there are American forces here in support. So we're going to see if the fighting position is allowed to stay up here. If we crack the attack, we can see the Axis player being very active in the north of the map, but loses their fuel in the south. So a bit of give and take, bit of push and pull. And we are at Panzer IV money, I want to say. Is it 125 fuel for OKW? 140, I'm sorry. 140 fuel for the OKW Panzer IV. So just about 45 seconds more saving required there. The manpower beginning to stack up, and I imagine Numbers here will want to keep that manpower in the bank, ready for the Panzer IV to come out at a timely manner, because if you don't, you know, as I was saying earlier, if you don't actually get that Panzer IV early, then all this early teching that you've been doing kind of was for naught. So anyway, these Jaegerlights are going to want to fall back ASAP, and there we go. Yeah, that's going to be a timely fallback for them. Jaegerlights in the south also going to be re-grabbing this fuel, which is very important. It's going to be an early Ostwind. Okay, colour me confused. Is that still 100 fuel? Yeah. Alright, so this is a substantially cheaper fuel choice. It does trump the Stuart. I mean, actually, it kind of technically trumps all of these units up here in the top right. So, I guess my analysis of this Ostwind is that I like it. Yep. Can't really say much else about that. I think this is a pretty smart Ostwind. It basically achieves everything a Panzer IV would have done in this circumstance. Still forces the American player to get an AT gun or some other AT solution, or put some more Zooks on these rear esh. Basically, it puts all of the same strains and pressures on the American player as a Panzer IV would have for less money. The drawback? Well, obviously, you have less future insulation against your American opponent choosing a medium vehicle of their own. Of course, a Sherman tank will counter an Ostwind, whereas, you know, it won't counter a Panzer IV in the same way. So, there is sort of implications for how this game develops in this Ostwind choice, but I still really like the choice, if I'm honest. And an Ostwind, you know, they vet up fast, especially when they have lovely targets like this. They counter the Americans' primary strength, at least in this point in the game, which is very good infantry. In fact, they're even more dangerous than a Panzer IV against infantry. So, you know, I really like this Ostwind. The more I think about it, the more I like it. If this enables the Axis player to push forwards and get double fuel, or even just maintain this triple cap, so that a Panzer IV can be coming out onto the field at the same time or shortly after the Americans' first major tech unit, then this has been a very good build, I think, from the Axis player. But yeah, we're going to have to see. You know, you need more than a good build, you need good execution. This is still an active battlefield. Anything can happen here. What's the saying? No plan survives contact with the enemy. So, you know, I like the approach that Numbers has taken to this game, but American units are still incredibly nasty. That rear esh, 3-star with Zoot, very low there, but gets out. But as I was saying, American units are still very nasty. Even if you have the appropriate units, you can lose fights to the American forces. So, yeah, we're just going to have to see how this pans out here. This Ostwind just strafing the front, gunning down the lieutenant squad there. Looks like the Stuart going to be utilised in the south of map to police these Jaeger lights, and that is nice. But do I remember correctly that Jaeger lights can booby trap points? Yeah, I would love to see some of that start being used. Not like munitions is a resource that Hero is bathing in right now, but as this game goes on, booby traps, just throw down one or two. You don't need to keep using them. Just make your opponent, just say to your opponent, hey, buddy, you might want to get a metal detector, like, or your dudes might keep exploding. Like, it's up to you. Just, it's one of those things that you wanna keep the suggestion of booby traps alive in the mind of your opponent, because that's where the value is really. Don't be consistently using them because they are very munitions intensive, but just use one or two here and there. Force your opponent to have to pay the cost and make the adaptation and feel cautious and feel that they might have to delay their infantry to get a metal detector to check points before they take them. That kind of thing. It's like a really good analogy might be cheesing or cannon rushing in StarCraft. If you're a Protoss player and you never cannon rush, I would say that's a mistake. I would say that you need to cannon rush maybe 1 in 20 games, just so that your opponents know you're a player who's capable of cannon rushing, and if they don't play safe enough, if they don't check the cannon rush locations, then there's a chance they might just flat out lose. You know, that if you never cheese as an RTS player, I mean, Company of Heroes 2 is not really a game where you can cheese in the context that I'm using this phrase, but yeah, what I'm saying is you need to mix in all of the tools at your disposal so that your opponent respects the possibility, because that inflicts a certain amount of damage even if you're not using the tool in this particular example. So anyway, did that make any sense? I feel like it did to me, but it might not to anyone else. Sometimes the way I phrase things works out that way. For a caster, perhaps I need to work on my communication. Anyway, let's turn our attention back to the 3 squads of Jaeger lights now. Holy spoons. That was a lot of G43s. And remember, the Jaeger lights use their G43 in a sort of pseudo-sniper role. Like, I believe it one-hits infantry models who have damage on them already, so, like, not quite as good as an actual sniper, but not far off either. And, of course, Jaeger lights can do their, like, nifty camo trick. Like, this Stuart is just, like, dun-dun-dun, Predator active camo on these guys. Really good. So, we've got a Sherman on the field. Major Tech has arrived, so the window of time where the Ostwind was just as good or better than a Panzer IV is now closed, because of course a Panzer IV would have a really decent gun to start controlling this Sherman, but that is not the case. Let's just quickly check the tech. Do we have mechanized reg? We don't. Okay, so I don't think this is going to be a KT build, which means I imagine we might see a Jagdpanzer or a Panzer IV, or possibly, save for Panther, For sure, I think we're going to see another Schwerpanzer HQ fuel unit enter the field in the next minute or two here for the Axis player. Ostwind here going to be chunking out for more damage. American forces going to sprint on in here. 2 exposed Kettenwerfers. Jägerlights here going to spring the ambush, but I mean, there's just only so much DPS that they can kick out, and I imagine that they'll be forced back pretty soon. Ostwind kiting nicely, though. Is the Sherman going to elect to join the fray? No, the Sherman actually just being idle down here to the south, kind of zoned out in a way by the positioning of the Schwerpanzer HQ. If you see on the minimap, that Sherman can't really approach the Ostwind right now because the Schwerpanzer is just in the way. The Schwerpanzer HQ. Okay, these Jägerlights probably need a fallback. There it comes. Very nicely done. Double Kettenwerfer here finds the Stuart. Nicely done. A moment of inattention there from Hero, and the very Kettenwerfers he stormed in here to take out end up inflicting a costly loss on him. Yeah, the Stuart's only a light tank, but it's useful throughout all phases of the game, and I'm sure Hero would have rather retained that unit than lost it there. So Tommy guns are done on the Rangers. They're going to be applying pressure here, but I mean, there's only so much pressure Rangers can apply when it's into the face of an Ostwind. Smoke barrage is going to be used. What's that coming down off? Is that... What is that smoke barrage coming down off? Oh, that's off of the Sherman. Right, yeah, cool. So yeah, it's going to be used there, but I mean, that is all just fine for numbers. He is just dealing with his opponent here. Second Ostwind. Okay, all right. Okay, this is not the second armored unit I thought we'd be seeing out of the Axis player here. This is very exciting. All right, okay, all right. Well, I mean, you've got double Kettenwerfer. I mean, that Sherman is largely not being too impactful. You've already picked off the Stuart. Why not go for another Ostwind? You know, the Ostwind is doing well. And a second Ostwind would be really nice. Remember, it's at 2 stars of veterancy that Ostwinds get, in my opinion, the most important veterancy upgrade, which is that rate of fire improvement. Then they turn into, well, their damage just ramps up against infantry, and they just do the killing of infantry faster, which is their primary job. So that's the most productive star of veterancy in my book for them. Do OKW get additional rate of fire at 4 star? They get increased weapon damage at 4 star. Ugh. Increased range at 5 star. Ugh. I mean, we're unlikely to see that in this or any game, but it's still just a nasty thing to think about. Oh, these riflemen just getting decimated by the flat gun on that Ostwind there. Lesser known fact about the Ostwind. I play an interesting game. So, oh, okay, well, this Ostwind gets picked off by Zooks. Okay, that changes everything, because now this Ostwind, the second Ostwind, is really just keeping the Axis player at parity, rather than multiplying the deadliness of their forces. So, okay, this is now a little bit risk. The Axis player's position just, like, notably deteriorated there. Top-level analysis. Top-level analysis from Magpie. He lost an important unit. His position has deteriorated. Nice work. I've really found my niche in life. But anyway, as I was saying, I play an interesting game, like, with my friends from time to time. My World War II nerdy friends. Because I've just got, you know, like, if you play Company of Heroes 2, you probably have other friends who play Company of Heroes 2. And we play Ruse, and we play Steel Division, and, like, some other, like, World War II games. And one time I had my phone out, I think it was, and I was just like, we just played this game where everybody took a guess at how many of a certain armored vehicle were made during the war. Because it's an interesting thing, and, like, it's just sometimes surprising, like, how many T-34s were made during the entire World War II? How many Panzer IVs? How many Ostwinds? How many Brumbars? Like, it's just interesting to think about exactly how numerically prevalent these units were during the war. And the Ostwind, surprisingly, I think something like 8 or 16, or like, it's a really low number. This was not a vehicle which saw very massed production whatsoever. It was really a stepping stone chassis, using a Panzer IV with a sort of makeshift flat cannon in the turret there. Panzer IV chassis, and other armored anti-air units took over and used just much more for the Axis forces during World War II than the Ostwind. So it's a very strange choice for the Company of Heroes 2 designers to have put into the game, seeing as how they were basically never seen on any fighting front. I mean, they were just very rare. So I think it was certainly less than 30, but I believe it was like a really low number of Ostwinds that were actually produced and used. The Whirlwind, I believe, was produced in greater numbers, and even that, hardly any were made. Alright, okay, so anyway, turning my attention back to the game. Kettenwerfer's here, going to find this Sherman and force it back with heavy damage. He picks off the Sherman? Yikes. That is some pretty damn fine shooting from these Kettenwerfers. 4 consecutive hits there. Wow. Okay. Well, both players here, like, seemingly unable to keep their armored units intact. I'm not poking fun at them. That's just a hard thing to do in this game. And that actually means that this game is probably going to continue a bit longer. Now, the American player has done a fantastic job over the last few minutes of maintaining control over the victory points, and that has, to a large extent, redressed the scoreline imbalance. The Axis player now leading by just, what, 60-odd tickets? A little bit less now. So, yeah, that's... this is almost an even game now, which, given the way it started, I didn't think I would be able to say. Wow, these Zooks just getting so many hits. I mean, that was just an Ostwind driving out into Fog of War with very little support. And another one coming in here. Careful, bro. You just saw all the Zook squads out here. Ah, come on now. Let's kite back. Let's kite back. Let's not feed veterancy. Oh, dear. All right. I guess there's only so much veterancy you can feed onto squads that are already 3-star vet. But, I mean, he did feed the veterancy needed for that major to complete his veterancy. So there's that. Here comes the Pershing. And this is always going to have been the problem. What's the plan to deal with this? I mean, 2 Rakettenwerfers are good against Shermans and whatnot, but the trouble with the Pershing is that cannon can, like, deal crippling damage to a Rakettenwerfer squad with its opening shot. I mean, it's just so meteorically effective against infantry squads. That's probably going to be a dead Jaeger Light, yeah. So I think 2 Rakettenwerfers is not going to be sufficient insurance against the Pershing here. So we're going to have to see what adaptations Numbers is going to make. They're going to need to do it quickly. You have to have been expecting the Pershing in this game. I mean, we've seen all of the hallmarks of the Heavy Cav Commander as this game has gone on. Another Jaeger Light squad going down here. That Pershing just eviscerating dudes. Already 7 kills under its belt. I believe they're all Jaeger Lights as well, so it's quite painful. Whoa, Lieutenant getting turbo low. Will fall back. Flat cannon there, proving its worth against these incoming Axis infantry. Wow. These Kettenwerfers feeling brave enough to push, but I mean, under the cover of that flat cannon, I suppose I would too. So now we've got double Ostwind and a heavily depleted infantry roster. We're down to 1 squad of Volks, 1 squad of Jaeger Lights, and 2 squads of Storm Pioneers who are effectively going to have to be used as core infantry here, which is never where you want to be with the OKW forces. So now I feel like the OKW player is pressured in 2 ways. They need to replenish their core infantry roster, because otherwise they're never going to be able to meaningfully contest for these victory points. And they need to come up with an answer for the Pershing, or at least bolster their AT resources. These 2 Kettenwerfers are a really good start, but they just won't be enough. So I feel like he's got a decent amount of fuel. There is some manpower in the bank. I think that the solution here, and this is just what I would always say, and I'm sure everyone's probably tired of hearing it. Oh, okay, hang on. We've got an artillery barrage coming down here. That is a major barrage, I believe. Looks like Axis forces will just about get away. One of the shells there going to maul the Volks Grenadier squad, but crucially it will survive. But yeah, as I was saying... actually, what was I saying? Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I was saying that. So I think what he could do here, which would be really good, I think. So you've got tons of anti-infantry firepower in the Ostwinds. What you need is some good anti-tank firepower. Get a Yagdi tank hunter out here. That answers the Pershing so hard. Makes it very difficult for your opponents to use any kinds of armoured units, really. And then you can, from that point on, just focus on spending your manpower on replenishing your infantry roster. So that is my diagnosis. Get a Yagdi. Although I feel like my diagnosis when I'm casting is often get your faction's tank hunter. So I don't know if I just like tank hunters too much, or if I just favour tank hunters a lot, or if I'm actually on the money and like everybody in the world underuses tank hunters, or what. But whatever, I still feel like a Yagdi would be a really nice choice here, because you just want to turn off this Pershing, and the Yagdi does that very cleanly, and then you can focus on all your resource spending into just getting a couple more squads of Volks, I think I would recommend here, because Volks, you know, they just have the right blend of cost and durability, and that's what you're really looking for in additional infantry here for the Axis player. Okay, we're going backwards here. This is what I mean, man. The Pershing is just meteorically effective at dealing with infantry. That gun just consistently gives 3+ models of infantry squads. We've seen it many times in this game. We've seen it many times on the channel, and I'm sure you guys have seen it many times in your games out there that you play. The Pershing is an absolute menace to infantry. I know that's not its primary role. I know that's not what everyone thinks of when you think of the Pershing. You think of that cannon being very effective at good range against a variety of armored targets, but it smites infantry as well. And That's a very worrying thing for Axis players to have to deal with. And I feel like Numbers here, who got off to a beautiful start in this game, and even had a mid-game which I really liked. You know, I thought the plan was good. These Storm Pioneers, they're clustered up. The Pershing still has them. That is so brave, not falling those back. I don't know if that's brave or stupid. But anyway, as I was saying, Numbers, who got off to a really good start and a really good mid-game, is really, we are behind on the scoreline, struggling to maintain any kind of presence along the midline of the map, getting outdone by a huge amount of vastly superior. What? We're going for an Ostwind. Well, I think that's probably the nail in the coffin here. I don't think 3 Ostwinds is achieving anything that 2 Ostwinds wasn't, really. And I think that what you are lacking for here is a way of answering the Pershing, not a 3rd Ostwind. You don't need additional ways of dealing with the American infantry. I think you have enough Ostwinds that is okay. I think what you need here is additional diversity in this army. You're getting an MG34 as well? I feel like Numbers just might have a slight misread on what they actually need to be doing in this game, because I don't feel like you're struggling for infantry control here. Like, with the 2 Ostwinds, you are already able to repulse most infantry-based elements of this American army. If you're having problems with the infantry-based elements of the American army, it's only because the Pershing is answering your Ostwinds and answering your machine guns and answering your infantry, and that's enabling the American infantry units to push forwards and do their job. So, like, you need to answer the Pershing here, not add additional heavy anti-infantry elements to your army. I mean, this just seems very strange. Don't get me wrong, I love a triple Ostwind as much as the next, caster, but under this particular circumstances, I'm not certain it's the way forwards. Unless your line of thought is 2 Ostwinds is answering all my opponent's infantry, but with 3 Ostwinds, I could very well conceivably start just wiping out squads, even with timely fallbacks. And maybe that's how I get back in the game, is just by wiping squads with 3 Ostwinds. But I mean, I don't know. I really don't feel like... I feel like that's quite the gamble. I feel like a much lower risk line of play would have been to just cleanly answer the Pershing with a Yagdi. Okay, so we're going to have to fall back here through the scavenger artillery barrage. There was a squad wipe there. The Rangers are going to sneak away. Notably, actually, this MG position is still here. I've just noticed that. Okay, so Storm Pioneer is going to grab a Zook as well. That's, like, really good. But, I mean, now the problem becomes the time. Numbers here is bleeding out. 93 tickets, 233 for the American player. Bleeding out at 2 per tick right now. The American Major going to dive forward here. And oh no, we're going to probably lose these Storm Pioneers here. Maybe not. But I mean, this is just looking increasingly dire for the Axis player, who's managed to get another squad of Jaeger Lights, so that is some much needed boots on ground. But even they are not a very durable squad, that are not the cheapest to reinforce, so I still feel like my suggestion of purchase Yagdi, then Volksgrenadiers would have been superior over purchasing Ostwind, then MG34, then Jaeger Lights. I mean, your problem here is the Pershing, and then the ability to push Axis infantry up the map and claim points. And I'm just not convinced that these units that Numbers have chosen is going to be the most optimal way of doing that. Anyway, Jaeger Lights are going to grab this, and that will finally stabilize the scoreline. So off the clock is Numbers at 76 tickets remaining. A dubious and precarious place to be. But these units in the top left, that's still quite a few units. I'm not convinced that there's an easy way of taking a fight against this army in the top right. So we're going to have to see exactly how Numbers opts to take these fights moving forwards. It's going to be difficult, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, oh my god, this American infantry is just so devastating. And the American infantry can flush your anti-tank, and then the Pershing can just come in and just kind of have its way. Anyway, well, here comes the American blob, just the Ostwind's desperately kiting. Pershing is going to roll a miss there, so that's lucky. Schwervermacht Schlepper gets taken out before it could become the mechanized regiment, looking to complete the tech tree. Again, I just think, I feel like since the Pershing entered the field, Numbers has actually just not really correctly identified what their plan needs to be, or they may have correctly identified what their plan is, but I don't think it's the correct plan. There's another way of phrasing that, because trying to complete the tech tree, like, really? are we really doing that when we're kind of losing every fight and losing heavily on the clock? Like, is now really the time to be completing the tech tree? I mean, I just don't... I'm just not sure that that's what we should be doing right now. Okay, finally going to pick up the Ranger squad here, it seems, probably. Hang on. Hang on. No, okay, they're going to sneak away once again. Okay, well, hang on. Alright, let's look at this another direction. If you are hell-bent on getting that third Ostwind, let's suppose that that's just the thing you've decided is necessary in your life. You could probably still make it work if instead of Jaeger Lights and instead of the machine gun, you purchased just 2 more Rakettenwerfers. Because then you're up to 4 Rakettenwerfers. And Rakettenwerfers are actually quite durable, 5-man. I mean, I know they're a weapon crew, so they get the received accuracy bonus. So they are more fragile than other 5-man squads, but they're still relatively durable, our Rakettenwerfers. They're also very cheap to reinforce. They can capture ground just fine, because they can go invisible. Okay, Storm Pioneers here getting taken down. That is horrible, because now there's a... I think that was Storm Pioneers. Or was that... Was that Volks? I think that was the remaining Volks squad, actually. As I was saying, yeah, so if you're hellbent on getting the third Ostwind, that is actually a playable composition. If you just go up to 4 Rakettenwerfers, I know that might sound stupid, but I really think that's justified, because if you don't answer the Pershing, your Ostwinds count for nothing. Like, if the Pershing can just shove in, your Ostwinds cannot then control the American infantry. Like, it just doesn't work. So... I think with 4 Rakettenwerfers, they can push up and meaningfully take ground. They are okay taking fire because they're cheap to reinforce. And that way you are able to have 3 Ostwinds if that's your heart's desire. Which it does appear in this game that is what Numbers wants. Now, for all this that I'm haranguing Numbers for their like allegedly poor choices and like possibly poor identification of their role in this game since the Pershing came onto the field, they have stabilized. 76 tickets has been the score for some time now. It is Axis Boots who are trying to capture mid right now. They're going to have to stop that though. Ooh, okay, now the MG34 starts looking useful. It's a lot of allied infantry to find under its arc here. That's a 3-star Ostwind as well, so these Ostwinds are getting to the stage now where, even with timely fallbacks, they could start gibbing American squads. So, okay, artillery gets used here to force the MG34 back, and that's okay. American Boots are finally going to access middle VP, but I mean, this is a lot of Ostwind. Okay, alright, so that's what the Mechanized Reg is about. Okay, so we're building this Mechanized Reg as a forward repair point for our Ostwinds, is what we're doing. So, I can sort of see a plan coming together here for Numbers. And I'm going to go ahead and say, I feel like this is a style that Numbers is used to using. I mean, we did see Scavenge Doctrine get picked very early, and this Ostwind actually can't reverse and is getting hit by Zooks, so that's needs to probably just reposition. Jesus, yeah, these Ostwinds are putting out a ton of fire, actually. Nah, what are these Rangers doing? They are feeding in. Oh, God. I think that was a little bit of a missed rally point there, a bad order. Oh, gonna lose. Okay, alright, well, this is what I was saying. If there is a way for triple Ostwinds to get you back in the game, it is by just wiping out loads of American squads. And the veterancy on these Ostwinds is getting to the stage now where that is actually becoming a reality. We've seen a couple of American squads hemorrhaged over this last phase of play. And, I mean, okay, what the 4-star Ostwind finally goes down. There we go. I was kind of amazed at just how the Axis player was keeping those Ostwinds all alive. Finally, one of them goes down, and it was the 4-star one as well, which is a shame. Luckily, we still have a 2-star Ostwind, which does crucially have that all-important 2nd star on it, so that's a thing. But what a weird end game that we're seeing here. This is not the late game I expected to see. It's just not. It's just, and looking at the top left, looking at the top right, this is not where I thought we'd find ourselves. Somehow the American core infantry has been somewhat depleted. 59 tickets, though, for the Axis player. I mean, it's going to come down to the scoreline, and not in the way I thought it would. You know, from the early stages of this game, I thought for sure this would be a game where the American player was going to have to be desperately defending victory points and, you know, the underdog in terms of the scoreline. But that's not what we're seeing at all. It is Numbers here who's the underdog in the scoreline and is having to desperately defend the victory points, which they are somehow doing. Oh my god, in for a penny, in for a pound. Definitely get that 5th Ostwind in this game. Yeah, why not? Okay, this MG34 as well, you know, I was criticizing it, but it has been heroically holding middle VP. And if you are the underdog and you need to hold victory points, machine guns are the tool for that. So, you know, this MG34 is not useless. I know I said it was not what I would have chosen, and I would like to point out in my defense that the units that I suggested, I feel like would also have been able to repulse American infantry from these points. But Numbers is making it happen with this composition that they've gone for, and so, you know, I'm happy for them. That's great. You know, you gotta live your best composition. You gotta be the army you want to be. You gotta live your tactics every day. That's Magpie's inspirational quote bundle for 2020. Enjoy. Okay. Rangers moving on. They're going to challenge North VP. That's turbo relevant because this is a game about VPs now. Pershing being repaired slowly. Is there only these rear Ash to repair that? Where is this vehicle crew? Oh, repairing the Sherman. Okay. Okay, so the Ostwinds, you know, they are mobile. They're able to respond, drive American infantry off of Northern VP. These Jaeger-Lights probably want to start capturing that because this is a game that's going to be about the scoreline. American units... Sorry, that's... there's a Storm Pioneers. Going to be reconnecting fuel here. And... a 4th Ostwind will be joining the roster. Just consistent Ostwind production. I think if this game goes on much longer, we are at the point where, like, if I was right when I said that there were only 8 Ostwinds produced, I think it was a higher number than 8 to be honest, but if I was right when I said that there were 8, then literally every single historically accurate Ostwind would have been used in this battle. Like, that is the maximum number of Ostwinds that Germany could have provided historically accurately into this game. If it was 8. I think it was actually like slightly more than 8, so we're probably not quite there yet, but an amusing thought nonetheless. Okay, so Pershing comes into challenge here. Smoke grenade actually not... is it going to prevent it from taking shots into these Ostwinds, which is kind of a shame. Wow, the range on that Pershing. I realised that that was a shot that missed and so flew over, but still. Wow. And, you know, these Kettenwerfers, 5-star Kettenwerfer, these Kettenwerfers are keeping that Pershing controlled, and somehow the American infantry is just unable to meaningfully connect with these Kettenwerfers. Yeah, there we go, just controlling that Pershing. 8 stars of veterancy over the two Kettenwerfers now. Pretty scary stuff. I mean, this is pretty much an even game now. What a crazy back and forth affair this has been. I can't believe I'm saying that. I think that there were moments in this game where I feel like both of these players had like pretty low odds to win. Like, if you were to just look at the first 10 minutes of this game and then give me a percentage chance that the American player is going to win that game, I don't think many players would have given me above 33. Like, the first 10 minutes of this game looked glum, and most games that start off looking that way do not result in a close game or an allied victory. But we are living in the timeline where it's 59 tickets for Numbers, under 132 and bleeding from Hero. We've got Quad Ostwind versus Pershing Sherman. And somehow, I mean, the American player is just losing all their infantry. This is what I was saying. If there is a way that Ostwinds alone get you back in the game, it's by just gibbing squads until what your opponent has is no longer a functional army. And, like, I feel so weird saying it, but that plan is actually materializing here. That is what we are seeing. And actually, you know what? For all I was saying about this being an even game, I feel like this is actually not. I mean, if you look at the top left, look at the top right, it actually looks like the Axis forces have the upper hand here considerably. Okay, the American player has like some scoreline like advantage right now, but I don't think that this is enough infantry where you can meaningfully push into this many Ostwinds and ever claim 2 or more of the VPs for the amount of time required to win the game. I can't believe I'm saying this. Yeah. To some extent, I feel like we're in the low odds timeline here, where the tactic that Numbers has recklessly pursued has been effective. I mean, just because you don't go with my unit suggestions, just because you you go with what, in my caster's omnipresent, omnivision opinion, were probably not the most optimal units to get. That doesn't mean that you can't win the game, you know? And just because I think that there was a better unit composition, I think that there were better choices, perhaps, that Numbers could have made in this game, doesn't mean that the choices they've made can't result in a victory. And we are actually seeing that, like, perhaps slimmer percentage outcome occur here. Okay, Pershing coming in for a dive. What are we diving for here? This is double Sherman, sorry, coming in for the dive. Where is the Pershing? Okay, it's taking shots. Okay, finally. Okay, one of the Ostwinds, two of the Ostwinds go down. And looks like the Shermans are going to exfiltrate safely. Oh, just a crazy amount of action going on all across the map here. The Pershing comes under fire from a Zook-equipped squad of Storm Pioneers here. Sherman's just recklessly strafing the Axis line. And a brave, plucky lieutenant going to push forwards here, looking for squad wipes on a Storm Pioneer squad. Not going to get it, wanders into the arc of a MG34. We'll have to fall back. Definitely build more Ostwinds. If you lose 3 Ostwinds, build an Ostwind. That way, it'll be like you only lost 2 Ostwinds in the last battle. And, you know, we know that Ostwinds are life. Why build any other unit when you can build Ostwinds, is the argument that Numbers is proposing here. And who am I to tell him he's wrong? Okay, alright, so, but real talk here for a second. That last battle was a massive swing. Losing 3 Ostwinds, and notably the vetted Ostwinds, was big. The American infantry is still horrendously depleted, but we're coming into a world now where it's going to be 3 Shermans against 2 Ostwinds. There are 3 Kettenwerfers now, though, actually. I like that. We've added a 3rd Kettenwerfer in. So, I mean, if there is a world where the American player can muscle in and capture these VPs for long enough to win this game, it probably starts looking like this, where there's just enough Shermans to start muscling around these Ostwinds. Because if the Ostwinds aren't in the fight, then the American infantry, such as it is, gets to be in the fight. And if the American infantry is in the fight, well, then the Kettenwerfers kind of have to leave. And if the Kettenwerfers kind of have to leave, well, then the Pershing and the Shermans just win. I don't know. It depends how these elements come together in the fight. Oh, okay, nice grenade there. Picks up one of the, picks up the 3-star vetted Kettenwerfer. Kind of come under some heavy flak fire here. But those American units will get out. Okay. What a crazy game. I'm really glad we caught this one. It's not often that you have a game. I mean, how many Ostwinds have been produced this game? I've actually lost count. I feel like it's 7 or 8 Ostwinds have been produced by now. And a lot of Shermans. We're up to 3 Shermans alive right now. And that Pershing, which, to be fair, has been quite the survivor Pershing. Alright, here come the Shermans. One Sherman just goes down, Kettenwerfered out. What are these Pershings doing? Sorry, these Shermans doing? I get that you want to take out the Ostwinds, but I feel like you have to deal with the Kettenwerfers first. Okay, smoke is one way of removing them from the equation. Oh no, but now you're just kind of under the gun of this flat cannon here. Oh goodness me, let's get out of here, let's get out of here. Oh no. Oh yikes, this Pershing getting turbo low. Meanwhile, American forces access mid. Meanwhile, a 3rd Ostwind comes onto the queue, so God knows how many Ostwinds this has been now. The American infantry just getting decimated. Riflemen get wiped. Lieutenant in danger of getting wiped. Still getting shattered by flat cannon rounds. He sneaks away, and every squad is going to be crucial in determining who wins this game, so that is massive. That lieutenant literally represents 50% of the infantry squads available to the American player right now, so that's quite scary. The Kettenwerfers finally go down, and that's massive. I mean, what? Okay, and the smoke comes down off the Shermans here to buy enough time for the Kettenwerfers to be actually fully hard-gibbed. Which is just, that is massive. Obviously it's insufficient just to kill the Kettenwerfer squads. You need to destroy the hardware as well, or else those Kettenwerfers are still going to be an issue. So, okay, I mean, now there's like no real anti-tank for this American army, for this Axis army, sorry. There's one Zook on some Storm Pioneers and the Ostwinds, such as they are. But the Ostwinds should lose to, like, Sherman Pershing, right? That's not an anti-armor fight that they can take. So, okay, now a triple cap is beginning to develop. There are American infantry in the south claiming that point. The Sherman goes down, the Pershing is stricken here, but ought to be able to sneak away if he's careful. But he ideally wants to stay to cover these rangers, really, with that Pershing. Because this Ostwind will push them away. Okay, he gets the triple cap. No, whoa, whoa, camera, come on, what are we doing? So, okay, now he can just fall back. Another Pershing comes on the queue. So now I feel like, yeah, this is going to be an American victory. There's just no way, right? Not with 2 infantry squads and 2 Ostwinds. There's just no way. Finally, Hero has won. Right? Numbers is vanquished. If I sound hesitant, it's because this game has swung so massively over the last, like, well, over the whole last 50 minutes that I just don't even feel concrete saying that the American forces won, but they've definitely won, right? There's just not enough time for these units to... I mean, sprint is being used, but it ain't going to be enough, mate. The mustard, that will not cut. And so... Is the Pershing going to go down in the closing minutes to a double Ostwind rush? That would make me smile. There we go, and that's game. Whew. What? Ludicrous game. What a lovely game to have caught out on the ladder. Brilliant battle there. Can't say I fully understand the decisions made by the players throughout that game, especially just going for that many Ostwinds. But it was very entertaining. I mean, geez, a lot of explosions, a lot of stuff going on. I mean, look at this battlefield. That is a scorched hellscape. That is the result of like plenty-o Ostwinds firing plenty-o rounds. Jeez. Absolute mayhem being just unleashed onto this relatively small map there. There's a lot of Ostwinds to pack into this area. I think like the Ostwinds per square kilometer ratio of this particular game was among the highest I think I've ever seen. Yeah. I mean, the game was so chaotic and quite prolonged that I feel like it's actually quite difficult for me to do any meaningful post-game analysis. Beyond saying that I just really enjoyed this game and would watch a rematch between these two players, because, yeah, that was really fun. I mean, I feel like Hero actually played quite standard, like the whole way through. I didn't really find myself disagreeing with any of the unit choices made in any significant way. Built the right amount of armoured units in most of the right combinations. I mean... yeah, reacted relatively well to this ludicrous Axis composition we saw throughout the game. And I've already talked enough about my criticisms of how Numbers here decided to handle the game. There are some units that an Ostwind doesn't counter, and I would submit that the Pershing is one of them. So I think if Numbers had won this game, I would feel my sanity beginning to fray, because like it just feels like in theory no amount of paper should beat scissors, right? It just shouldn't happen. But I feel like if Numbers would have won this game, then I feel like that's what we would have seen. So yeah, my sanity is kind of glad that that's not the timeline we're living in, because otherwise I would be like in some sort of mental distress right now. Awesome. Great game. Loved casting it. Thanks very much for watching. This for now, Magpie842, signing out.